Good evening and welcome to this edition of Mongo Spaces. We'll be discussing Ziidi Trader. So we have three able speakers who are going to take us through the product itself, the impact it's having in the market, and how it operates and works so that you can be more comfortable in terms of using it to access the capital markets. So with us today is Eric Renji, we have Ditao Mashari and Alia Chege who are going to help us on this. Alia, maybe you can introduce yourself, tell us a bit about what you do at Safaricom and your journey to Safaricom.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Mokaya, for having me. My name's Alia. I look after the wealth and insurance business at Safaricom that sits within the financial services division. My experience is actually a corporate and investment banker. So I've been a corporate and investment banker for about 20 years. But the last couple of years, I've actually spent more on the wealth management side, dealing with onshore and offshore investments for high net worth individuals. Pleasure to be here.
And before I move on, what attracted you to this space? And typically when people think about Safaricom, they think about telco. But then you see this wealth management segment that is actually vibrant and thriving and has investment bankers within it. Could you tell us a bit more about that and what attracted you to the company itself?
Sure. So like I said, my previous experience has been with high net worth individuals and on the corporate side. So when Safaricom started looking for somebody to look after their wealth and insurance business, it felt like it was a great fit because I've done it for the high net worth individuals, but it was a good challenge for me to try and see how you could democratize wealth and bring it to everyday Kenyans. So it was the challenge of developing products and solutions aimed for everyday Kenyans and not specifically for high net worth individuals. And that just enables you to really make people believe that wealth is not just for the wealthy. Anybody can start their journey to wealth creation.
Thank you. I want to move on to Ditao, also from Safaricom. Maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your journey to Safaricom and also what you do within it.
Hi everyone, my name is Ziidi Trader. I'm a product manager for wealth and investment at Safaricom.
And tell us a bit about being product owner. Yeah. What does that entail?
Ideally, what a product owner, product manager means is I'm the go-between between the customer and the development, from ideation to value. So where we sit is we're able to try and get all parties together. And so when I say about ideation is how when you think about a product, you start crafting it, work with designers. And as a product owner, you work with very many teams. So from your designers to your commercial managers to think of business cases, to your backend developers, your front-end developers, your quality engineers. So the whole ecosystem before an end consumer gets to use it. So ideally, we're just middle people who are able to bring everyone together to now bring value to this customer on a product. What drove me to Safaricom? I've been in fintech for the last 10 years and the last 5, now 6 in wealth technology. So during my last role in wealth technology, I did get to experience a lot in wealth technology. And when Safaricom was reaching out to fill a spot for product management, I was very eager to now get all this knowledge that I'd learned internationally about wealth technology to now bring it into the M-Pesa ecosystem and to drive value to M-Pesa users.
I'll come back to you, Ditao. Eric, you're the one from outside Safaricom in this space, so maybe you can tell us a bit about your story to launching this product. You have a very fascinating story, I would say. So share a little bit about this and what you do day to day.
Hi everyone, my name is Eric Renji, and yes, I'm the one who is outside of Safaricom, but my journey with Safaricom began 3 years ago, and how I found myself there was, number one, I'm an investment banker for the last 23 years. I've worked in various firms, which most of you could know of, and in the 23 years, I've evolved from not being just a trader, where we used to wear the red jackets and we would go to the trading floor, but also evolved in the product development, and especially when it comes to setting up new departments. So my skill set, for starters, is trading, and this involves trading equities, trading bonds, trading euro bonds, advisory, and now tech. And how I have all those skill sets is because having worked in almost 5 firms in the last 23 years, I've been able to pick interesting learnings along the way. And this is how I also found myself talking to Safaricom. And what fascinates me with this whole journey is that a few years back, it was just a concept that we talked about. And I remember joking and saying, I think we can do this. I think technology is now ready for us to be able to empower the Kenyan citizen who has been suffering from just trying to get access to the market. Take note that long time, it used to be the manual trading system whereby somebody would go out there and actually place an order and go and shout in the trading floor. And if you had the loudest voice, your orders would be written and they would be executed. But with time, we evolved to the trading system, which we call the ATS. And now you are seated behind a desk. And how you became good at it was you are able to execute the order as fast as possible. Basically, you are able to key in your order very fast, make sure you don't have any errors. And in that way, the orders would match. But then again, time came that clients are becoming more and more, and you're not able to execute all those orders due to the limited time. I remember there was that adding of trading hours. We started with, I think it was between 10 and 12, and it's changed 9 to 3 o'clock. So with all that, remember, technology is evolving. 20 years is a long time. So with time, it became really interesting that things have to change. And that's how I find myself here, because also as I was going through all those various companies, the desire to be able to execute and to understand the client and to be able to move or to modernize the trading. Also, not everybody is accustomed to change. But for myself, I felt like change is inevitable. We need to modernize the trading. And that's how, after having a discussion and pitching an idea and talking even to the team in Safaricom, it became quite apparent that they have the mass, the clientele base, and I, as a broker, have the skill set to help work on something. And with that, I think the retail space also had been left out since 2008, coincidentally when Safaricom listed. And if you all remember, Safaricom listed at 5 shillings, but there was a global crisis. The price went down to as low as 2 shillings and 50 cents. And it took many years for that to recover. And because it took many years, a lot of retail people ran away from the market and went to do other things. So trying to bring back this client, this retail, mass retail, it needed to be a bit ingenuitive or to craft something that will be able to appeal to them. And this is where now we've brought in Ziidi. And I hope after the end of this conversation, everybody will appreciate the journey of Ziidi Trader. And we are more than happy to welcome back the retail clients who over the years have always shunned the stock market.
Thanks, Eric. Now let's get started on Ziidi Trader. Gitaro, tell us a bit about Ziidi Trader. What's the product all about? Can you just define what it is and what role it plays in the market?
Ziidi Trader is a product among the Ziidi suites, ideally aimed at democratizing wealth and giving access to all M-Pesa customers the ability to invest in stocks, and particularly local stocks. The idea of it is using just M-Pesa, and we try and keep products as easy and simple using human-centered design just to make it as easy as possible for the customers to use. So Ziidi Trader in a nutshell gives customers and all M-Pesa users the ability to buy and sell stocks on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. All you need is your M-Pesa PIN to opt in, that is now to create your account. And from then you use your M-Pesa wallet. So no pre-funding. All you need is your M-Pesa wallet. All you need to do is identify the particular stock you're looking for. And I'm sure within this conversation, we'll have conversations about how do you get to know what to buy. So I'll skip that and say, assuming you already know what to buy, Company X, Safaricom, you get on, you select the number of shares you'd like to do. You select the price. So you can use best price or you choose your own price if you're a sophisticated investor. And you check out. Checking out is entering your M-Pesa PIN. First, you verify the number of shares, the amount, and then you put in your PIN and voila, you've put in an order. The process after that is executing your order, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Thank you so much for simplifying it. And then in terms of key features of what differentiates Ziidi Trader from what's in the market, what are the key characteristics that our listeners would look out for when they come to Ziidi Trader that has not been in the market?
When we were developing Ziidi, I think it was important for us to understand what are the pain points that a customer actually goes through when they're looking to trade on the NSE. And there were a couple of areas that stood out for us that we thought we could try and simplify. So the first thing was everyone who needs to trade on the NSE needs to have a CDSC account. And opening a CDSC account can actually take a couple of days, but actually the documentation that they require from you, not everybody has that easily on hand. So opening a CDSC account was the first challenge that we thought, how do we solve for that? The second challenge that we saw is, given the profile of the customers that we were looking to target, and remember we said that our aim was to democratize wealth and investment products. We said that one, you have to start with as little as possible. So we really worked very closely with the NSE to change the regulation so that you no longer have to start with 100 shares as the minimum order, but we really lobbied to have that brought down to 1 share, which of course is applicable to everybody, but that was really us pushing for it so that you bring more people onto the exchange. And then the third thing was settlement. So typically settlement is a T+3. But if you look at all our Ziidi products, what we look to achieve and give back to our customers is flexibility. So the ability to have access to your funds as quickly as possible. And in some of our products, it's 24 hours a day. So those were the 3 things that stood out for us as areas that we need to solve. And that became the key feature for Ziidi. So with Ziidi, you no longer have to open a CDSC account. We've taken the route of an Omnibus account, and that enables a lot more people to participate. And then the second thing was the settlement. So we have an arrangement with the broker that if you sell your shares within market hours and the order is matched, you will get your funds by end of day or in 24 hours later. So those are the 2 key differentiators that we've brought to Ziidi Trader that are typically not in the market.
Eric, you come from the side of the broker. Could you tell us a bit more about what a broker's role in this process is, and especially define for us what the omnibus structure is like and what it means for share ownership? Because I've seen a lot of questions, people wondering where are their share certificates? We've gone a long journey from share certificates to where we are today. So maybe you can explain that a bit so that people can feel more comfortable in terms of putting their money on Ziidi Trader.
And I think the misconception that we've been having is there's no CDS account. There is indeed a CDS account. And the other one that I've been hearing is there's no broker. Just to correct, there is a broker. Just to give an explanation on the customer journey before Ziidi. Before it used to be the investor, then he'd go and fill in CDS forms. Then he would go to a broker who will now open the CDS. Then the client would go to the bank and transfer money, and then now the broker would be able to trade. But with Ziidi, what we've done, we've just simplified, and we've said the investor just needs to have an M-Pesa account, and he'll just opt in into Ziidi, and now the broker infrastructure here now comes to play, whereby the orders will go through the broker to the market. And behind all this is a CDS backbone or backend. So that backend is an Omnibus account. It's a CDS account that we have now pulled all the buyers and all the sellers into one big pot. And we are telling them, you don't have to open all those CDSs. What we'll do, we'll carry you in this Omnibus, in this pooled account. On the back end, there is indeed a CDS account. So the broker, what he's done is he's been able to create one CDS account whereby everybody meets in there. And at the end of the day, or every day, what happens if Mokaya buys shares, the shares are put in that CDS account. If Gitao sells his shares, which he had bought like a day or 2 ago or 5 days ago, we remove the shares from that account and they hit the market. So in a nutshell, just to demystify, the CDS account still exists, but the broker has taken the liberty in conjunction with Safaricom to do that back end, that heavy lifting, which was a hindrance to get the retailers into the market. So we've taken that headache off the clients and we've just simplified. Basically, what we are saying is that we have not removed the CDS, we've just removed the paperwork. Basically, we've removed the friction. The friction is now invisible. So the broker on the back end is the one who is doing the heavy lifting in conjunction with Safaricom, doing the collecting of monies from buying or selling.
And to be clear, I think we've discussed this with you. This is a common practice in global markets to enable quick trading. The broker or the institution is holding the securities in one combined account. The individual investors can track their investment records internally within the system, and then the custodian or broker appears as a legal holder. So the question I think people mostly are asking is, does my name appear in the share certificate, quote unquote, because it's not existing? And where is the ownership reflected upon? So I think that's an assurance that you want to give our listeners.
For starters, nobody gets a certificate. What you get is a portfolio where you're able to see these are the number of shares you own, and which can be traceable and audited in the CDS account. Because when you are buying, there's a tree of events. Mokaya put in this many shares. We deducted money from his account. We went to the market and bought the shares, and we credited to his account. Let me call it sub-account within the Omnibus. So at any one time when Mokaya is walking around and he looks at his portfolio, he can see the shares that were bought a few days ago. So that becomes the assurance that the shares exist. Almost similar case. You have your M-Pesa, you have 1,000 shillings. You never have to go to Safaricom to always ask them, is my money safe? Can I see my physical money? No. But when you query your balance, it gives you that amount and you're comfortable. And that's why also working with a partner who is trusted, like Safaricom, it becomes an easier sell to the majority of the people out there. Currently, maybe just to give statistics, we have less than 2 million CDS accounts. That includes the retail, the corporate, so the custodial accounts. To bring this point home, we have around 1.1 million CDS accounts that belong to retailers. And out of all that, last year statistics showed that around 61,000 to be exact, traded. So just think about it. We have a population of around 62 million. We have 35 million M-Pesa users. We are trying to get people to come in to the stock market. I think with the infrastructure that was there or that is there currently, bearing in mind that it's only 2 million active CDS accounts that are there, I think that is a tall order to ask the system. So even in the global world, for you to be able to harness the collectivity of the masses, now the retail, big firms or even normal brokerage firms all over, what they do is that they pull people together. And in this case, we have been able to pull people together through the Ziidi Trader. But we are not calling these clients unit holders. We are calling them shareholders because from a regulatory perspective, what we have done with the CDS account, it has been recognized that this is a pool of clients who've come together, that they all reserve the right as if you had a CDS account. So at any one time, when we have this big pot, we are not saying this pot is full of this many shares. We're actually saying this pot is full of this many shareholders who each own these types of shares within their portfolio.
Garrick, I think that lays to rest a lot of the fears around where my shares. They are there. They are under the Omnibus structure, and it's actually a globally accepted way to actually trade in shares generally. So I want to come back to Gitao. So Gitao, you can take us through the onboarding process and how it looks like, and maybe some of the pain points that you've solved in the process of trying to make the onboarding process as smooth as possible.
The first thing you need to do is you need to be an M-Pesa customer. If you're currently not, and I'm sure most of you are, is to get your Safaricom line and register for M-Pesa. The second thing you need to do is download your M-Pesa app. So once you get onto your M-Pesa app, the next thing you need to do is go on to financial services. So within financial services, you will find your Ziidi suits all there, which is your Ziidi MMF, your Ziidi Sharia, Ziidi Pochi. But scroll down to Ziidi Trader. Once you get to Ziidi Trader, click on it and begin your onboarding process. So the onboarding process here is very easy. And the idea behind it was, how do you reduce the process? As we began the process, the conversation with the CDSC and NSC, the question was, how do you get customers to reduce that friction or getting onboarded? Where the process then was, you need to register, which is form processes. You fill a form and it currently exists. And if I was to just digress a bit, before we launched, I had a conversation with one of the roadside kiosks. So one of the bandits that we go have lunch at the office. And it's a call out of my boy. I had once introduced her to Ziidi MMF and she was very happy. And she called me one day. She was like, yo, Gitao, I'd like now to buy Safaricom shares. And she was like, so here's a number for the broker. Reach out to them. The next thing is they told her to go to a cyber cafe and download a form, fill in the form, send it back to them and then process. We really wanted to eliminate that friction. And that's what M-Pesa stands for, is to eliminate the friction of customers to be able to consume services. So the idea was, how do we reduce that friction completely? For you, once you put in your M-Pesa PIN, which behind it has all your details, how can you begin trading there and then? And that is a process you have there. So once you click on Ziidi Trader, the next process is you accept, you fill in your source of fund questionnaire, where they'll ask you where you get your funds and also your profession. And thereafter is to accept. So the reasoning behind that, and I know Alia will touch on it, we really wanted to make sure that you're moving away now from ZMMF, which is a very simple invest in with 2 buttons, just invest in, to a situation here where you're now choosing, where you have to put a little more thought into it. What is this counter that you need to look at? Is it moving up or down? If it's moving down, are you aware? If it's moving up, there could be consequences of it moving down right after. And there could be an emotional attachment to you. You probably were hoping for a gain, but you get a negative for that. So you accept that, and you read through that, you accept that you understand this. Thereafter, you'll have your terms and conditions, and you're done. Just there and then, you're probably looking at 4 clicks before you actually opt in. And no forms, no sending it to someone. You don't even have to know someone on the other side of the company to fast track your application. All this is within your power. And then from there, you just begin onboarding.
Alia, people are worried about costs, and I know Ziidi Traders launched at lower cost their competing offers in the market. Could you take us through, when I get my money from my M-Pesa into the Ziidi Trader platform, am I being charged in that process, and what are the costs within the ecosystem to do the trading so that people are aware about the fee side of it?
What we realized is that if we really want to democratize wealth and bring more retail investors to the exchange, we do need to be affordable. So as Safaricom, we don't charge you any transaction costs when you're doing the transaction. So there's no cost there. The only charges that you will be charged is a fee, which includes the broker commission, which we have negotiated with Kestrel to come in a little bit lower based on the volumes that we'll be bringing in. And then you have the statutory fees and levies that everyone needs to factor in. So your typical statutory fees are like 2 shillings for every 10,000 shares traded. So whether you do 10,000 shares and below, it's 2 shillings. If you do 10,000 and above, it's more. And then you have the typical CMA, NSC, CDSC levies, which come in to about 0.34%. And then it's the brokerage fee. So as Safaricom, we don't charge you anything to transact, which ordinarily would be there if you were doing other M-Pesa transactions. So our aim was to come in slightly lower to make it more affordable for people to trade, with the understanding that the volumes will compensate for that.
You're a volume player, then I think that's also a global trend in terms of lowering fees and expecting more people to join in so that you can be able at the end of the day to enjoy lower fees. That's the target, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Perfect. And then Eric, Gita has taken us through the process of buying. What happens on the back end to make sure that the trade is executed? From the front end, someone sees the real-time settlements, but behind it, you've done a lot of work to make sure that something is going on. So could you take people through what's happening once you make that buy order?
The system, especially the UX, the user interface, has been well designed. What happens is when you go and place the order, you can be able to see the order book and so forth. When you click on buy and it's executed, what happens is the order hits the market. And then at the end of the trading session, there's a file that is sent by NSE and CDSC to the broker, which is uploaded. And from that end, that's now the normal trading settlement cycle. So what we've done, we have been able to come up with a system behind the scenes that is almost frictionless. Again, remember, we are in this era of technology. So we've been able to come up with a system that will be able to walk the customer from the money leaving his M-Pesa account to hitting the broker account, all the way the shares being bought from the market to hitting the Omnibus account. And all that is tied together using technology. And that's what has also made this product easy for us. In fact, even people were asking, why didn't it come in a bit earlier? But the truth of the matter is that a lot of things had to be done behind the scene to tweak the process. And the process that has been there mostly was manual, but now we've been able to integrate technology, and We are happy with the support that we've gotten from CDSC and NSC and even the Capital Market Authority to allow such an environment to exist. I remember before how people used to think about mobile money was going to disrupt cash. I'm thinking about now Ziidi, or maybe just buying and selling of shares through a platform, is going to disrupt the trader. The trader who used to wear the red jacket in this case, the trader used to sit and wait for orders to come in. But we have now seamlessly removed the trader and now embraced technology to come and be able to fit in or to fill the gap that person, whenever he puts his order, he's not waiting for Eric to click a button to say, okay, buy, okay, sell. It's a seamless flow. There's a maker checker. There's always somebody. The system has been programmed to be able to first make sure they receive the money. And then once the money is deducted, the order is released. So all these processes used to be manual. So what we're doing, or what we're embracing right now, is that technology has come of age. And that's why we've been able to produce a very seamless system, which from the beginning, when the client decides to place an order, to look at the market and to execute from the NSE perspective, all the way to settlement. Remember, again, here there's money moving hands. So again, with technology, we've been able to cure that. Again, the shares, instead of a share certificate or a CDS, yes, there's one CDS account, but again, it's seamless. So the process from the back end, just being able to walk through, it has been very seamless. And that's why we are here. We are celebrating a really ingenuity software that has been created by able people in Kenya. And we are happy that it's being able to handle all the trades. Taking note that I remember before the soft launch, that was on the 5th of February, the highest number of trades that had ever been done in the NSE was actually 7,814.
This is per day.
Yes, per day. Yeah, this is per day. That was 7,814. That was the 2nd February of 2026. And before that, it was 7,810 in January. And before that, it kept on going lower and lower. And right now, I think the highest we've done trades is 26,000. So think about it. So for the number of years the NFE has been open, the most we could ever have done was 7,814. But now, with the onset of Ziidi, we are now doing 26,000. On average, I think we are doing over 20,000 trades per day. So just think about it. Without technology, or without embracing technology, all this would not have happened. If I was to take you way back, the time where we used to have the open outcry, where somebody had to go and write in the board, I think we used to do 100 or 200 trades. And the board writer, I bet he would have been tired. Maybe one of them is listening to me. If he was given a chance to talk, he would tell you how his hand used to ache. But then there was the ATS that came in to handle all those number of shares and maybe trades, which maybe amounted to a maximum of 7,814. But now with Ziidi, we are now doing 25,000. So clearly this shows that it's about time we modernize trading, and it's about time that we embrace technology, and technology is here to stay with us.
And then in terms of the liquidity provision, I think this is more technical, so to speak, because you're doing real-time settlement and then waiting a little bit for the T+3 to work out. How are you handling that bit about that you have enough liquidity if Kenyans want to withdraw? And then there's also something that's very interesting. Kenyans are bit trying to trade during off-market hours. So you can remind Kenyans a little bit about the market trading hours and whether you have an intention at some point to introduce after-market trading.
For starters, I think even when Safaricom was going to partner with a broker, it had to look for high standards. So maybe I can say Kestrel has been in existence for the last 31 years. So it's not a young broker. It's a broker who's matured over time, and over time has been able to play in the big boys club. So again, partnering and having all those settlement issues, it's something that was talked about highly in this product development, taking note that the M-Pesa environment or ecosystem is a 24-hour platform. So if they needed to partner with anybody, that needed to have been key. And I think as Kestrel, they were able to meet the standards. And also in the back end, there's a lot that goes on behind which we cannot divulge much. But at least the surety is that with Kestrel, having partnered with them, with Safaricom, they were vetted and they fit the bill. And that's how they're able to do the almost instantaneous settlement as the market progresses. Taking note that also when you trade, that trade is as good as done Normally, for you to be able to erase a trade, that is next to impossible. So at any one time, your word is your bond. When it comes to trading, you are assured that because a trade has happened, you are assured to receive money from the other broker, and vice versa. Because you have traded, you're also assured that you will pay out. So that has always been the language that the broker fraternity has always acted upon, and that is a legal requirement whereby no trade should fail with or without money. If a trade has been done, a settlement has to happen. Now, the dynamics between the instant settlement and the 3-day settlement cycle, that one, again, is a boardroom discussion. On the other question, just for the record, to everybody, the market opens at 9 o'clock. And between 9 and 9:30, we are just preparing. The actual market opens at 9:30. So it's called pre-open, yes. So between 9 and 9:29, it's the pre-open whereby you can push in your orders. Then there's an auction that happens at exactly 9:30. Maybe that takes around 30 seconds. Then the official market opens at 9:30 onwards all the way to 3 o'clock. So again, I think we need to educate our people that, yes, we would want to have a 24-hour market, but for now, with what has been stipulated is actual trading 9:30 to 3 o'clock. And we are hoping that the regulators or the stakeholders can be able to add maybe the hours, taking note that now we've moved from trading 7,814 trades to over 26,000 trades. I think, and the bulk of that, which constitutes almost 60-70% coming in from the new platform, I think majority of those people are people who are first-time users and first-time investors. So we need to educate them, but also it clearly shows that there's hunger for investment. With time, we need to look at those trading times between the 9:30 and the 3 o'clock, and maybe push it by a few hours, maybe to 5 o'clock or 4:30. And maybe in a later fashion or a later time, we can now go to off-market trading hours. I think, Mokaya, with that one, you'll assist me because international standards have, or practice, has markets that close, but then you can still continue to trade.
Market hour trading that can happen and then also pre-market trading also.
Correct. So I think in the customer journey or the product journey, in this case, the idea is to make this product first succeed in this regulated space. It's within the times, but also because of the demand coming in, we now evolve it to after market hours. And I think we'll be calling it trading on the close. By that, I mean, assuming you bought something at 10 shillings or maybe something closed at 10 shillings and you still want to buy, and that's past already hours. So what will happen is the person who we call the market maker. And those are rules that have been already passed by the NSE. But those ones will come over time. I think for now, instead of just bringing so many products or so many ideas into one, we thought that it would be good to just walk the customer through this journey. And remember, taking note that these many orders that are coming in, these are first-time users. So you also don't want to overburden them with those big, grand ideas. We first have to appreciate where we've come from, a very tedious process of just even onboarding yourself or even having an order placed on your behalf. In this case, we're having you place the order. So you are the one in control. If you buy something, you are the one who decided the price. If you want to sell, you are the one who decides on the price. So it's not the broker. Yeah, so the perfect idea would be, let's work with that customer step by step as he becomes sophisticated. As the ticket size grows, again, there now we start onboarding these new features that we've been thinking about and dreaming about.
Thank you so much, Eric. Alia, have something to add in terms of that after markets trading? Please tell people also about trading hours. Just remind them, because some people are saying that their orders were not matched. Could you tell people a little bit more about how the market itself works, so they're able to have a basic understanding of what exactly is happening once they press order to buy or order to sell?
Sure. So like Eric said, the market is open between 9:30 and 3, Monday to Friday. So the stock market's not open on a Saturday or a Sunday if you try and put in orders. And like we said, we've directly integrated into ATS, which is the system at the NSE. So when you put in an order to buy Safaricom shares, it hits ATS system. If the order is matched at the ATS system, you will get a notification that your order has been matched. And when you go into your portfolio, you will be able to see that reflected in your portfolio. However, if the order is not matched it will get canceled by the end of the day and your money will get reversed back to you. So what we've aimed to do is that for all orders that are not matched, you will get your money back by end of the day. And the same thing will apply on the sell side. If you decide to sell at best price and the order is matched, you'll get a notification that the order is matched. And by end of day, you will get the funds credited to your M-Pesa account. However, if you put in a price and the order is not matched, that order will not be fulfilled and you'll have to reapply for that the next day. So by end of day, all orders are canceled if not matched. We don't hold them into the next day. In terms of products and features, I just wanted to say that what we've started off with was a very basic placing, buying and selling shares. There's a lot of opportunity that we can bring to Ziidi Trader, whether it's after hours trading, whether it's fractional shares, whether it's collateralized lending against these shares. I think the opportunity is endless, but we decided to start small and just test the market. And as we develop more products and features based on what feedback we get from customers, we will then go and enhance the features and products available on Ziidi Trader. We've done it for our MMF product, which, like Gitao said, was a simple MMF. But when we got people calling in to say, I wish you guys would do X, Y, and Z, then those are the additional features that you've seen on Ziidi MMF, such as lock or save as you spend. So the same will apply for Ziidi Trader.
And then in terms of dividends and investor calendar, Gitao, maybe you can respond to some people worried that their dividends might disappear into thin air. Will they get their dividend at some point? But you can also respond to some of the other issues that Eric and Ali have helped us handle.
So on dividends, so yes, based on what you hold during the ceremonies of your book closure, we will be able to allocate the dividend funds to each and every investor holding the stocks at that period. Good thing about the integration that we have is these funds will be sent to your M-Pesa account. No longer will you have to have a mailbox to have your check sent. These funds will be sent directly to your M-Pesa wallet within that. If a situation where you hold more than the amount, the process will still follow. And I know there's a question about M-Pesa limits. They will still follow M-Pesa limits, but all your funds will be credited to your M-Pesa wallet. I think I've seen a question about reversal. Should I take that for?
Yes, please. Some people are experiencing reverses. Reiterate the points that have been made about market hours and off-market hours.
So based on the market hours, so at 3 p.m., all our orders are good till day, which means all orders expire at the end of the day. If you've placed an order and it does not match, it is not executed or matched during the trading hours of 9 to 3 p.m., your funds will be reversed at 3 p.m. This is to enable you to tomorrow re-strategize and put in a price that will match. A way to help you is Ziidi Trader offers an order book, and the order book is found within each counter. So if you were to go to trade, and I know some of you are right now on that, you are to open to trade, remember just go to your M-Pesa app under financial services, and you find your Ziidi Trader. Once you get onto that, you go to trade. If you go to Safaricom, if I use it as an example, if you go into Safaricom, you will see 3 top menus, which is the overview, your order book, and your corporate actions. So in your order book, you will be able to see all buys and sells. So your bid and ask. I'd encourage you to use that to identify what is the best price. So if you do not click on the best price, go back to order book and identify what would be the best. So if you're buying, look at the red side. If you remember the names, look at the red side. If you're looking to buy, that means person on the other side is willing to sell. So if you identify the right price there and quantity, your orders should match in the market. If you're looking to sell, opposite inverse supply. You look at the blue side, those are investors looking to buy. They'll look at the best price, so ideally the top, and match the price and quantity, and makes it easy. That will reduce the possibility of having your order reversed.
Sticking to corporate actions a little bit, Ali and then Eric, You can help us. Some people are worried about attending AGMs. I think there are some perks to attending AGMs that some people would want. How does that look like in terms of attending AGMs for all these new shareholders in the market? And then for Eric, after that, you can tell a little bit about it. Is there a provision to also maybe incorporate some voting for the people who own particular shares so they're able to incorporate the ideas as you go to the AGM? Let's start with Ania on that.
So typically when you go down a nominee account route or an omnibus, which is the route that we've taken, it's the stockbroker who attends the AGM on behalf of the shareholders, just because the number of shareholders, especially when you have a digital platform like this, can scale up into the millions. So typically it's the stockbroker who attends it, but they do have a fiduciary obligation to do what is in the best interest of shareholders. Currently, it's not the individual shareholders that vote, it's the stockbroker who will attend AGMs on behalf. But like I said, this is not new, and Eric can probably speak to it because most corporates will go through a nominee structure when they're looking to purchase shares, and that's typically what will happen.
Indeed, in terms of incorporating, the broker will obviously listen to the people under the nominee account to be able to incorporate their desires into the process of voting at the AGM. So Eric, you can speak to that to add a little bit more information on that end.
Yes, Mukaya, and that is true. And the broker is the one who is going to take the fiduciary obligation. And how that will happen is at the back end, we already have a module that these are the many shareholders and there's an AGM coming up for this company. So if there were some questions that were raised, what will happen is that there's a module that is going to be embedded in the M-Pesa that each individual will be able to vote. And with that, we as their stockbroker, we are the ones who are going to say, this is how this many shareholders who own so many shares have voted. And these are the ones who have said either yes or no. So at the end of the day is everybody will be heard, everybody will be represented. But the disappointment is if we are going to get any merchandise that is usually dished out on that day, it will only be to the broker. And I think it will be one pack. So sorry about that, but at least your voice will be heard when it comes to the voting of things.
Alia, you spoke about this being version 1 of the product. I think that's very important to reiterate that if there are features that you want to see in the future M-Pesa product, you're listening to the customers as they come on board where the pain points are, you're fixing issues around the process. So you can tell us a bit about that and also like your vision around Ziidi Trader going forward. And Gitao, you can add after that.
So yes, this was a product that we were just piloting and just to see what the uptake would be. And I think so far it's been great, and we've received a lot of feedback from customers on what more they would like. But if I were to look at the possibilities for Trader, it's endless. You could start looking at fractional shares. You could start looking at after-hours trading. I think, like I mentioned before, you could do collateralized. We could eventually, even with the broker, start opening it up to different markets. So start maybe with the East African market. So I think the opportunity on first getting customers in, getting the buy-in, getting the comfort that they can do this from their phone through the M-Pesa app was the first level. As we get people comfortable with it, then we can always go on enhancing products and features on that high level without giving away everything that we're going to be doing on Ziidi Trader. I think that gives you a snippet of some of the things that customers can look forward to on Ziidi Trader.
Gitao, did you want to add and also speak to some people are trading in illiquid stocks? Sometimes there's a bit of liquidity challenges in some stocks. So I think it's good to pay attention to that even as you make orders. So speak to in terms of future and also to that bit of liquidity.
So if I begin with liquidity, I think I'd encourage our investors to go and look at the order book. So you'd understand how liquid. You'd also look at your movers and turnover to understand what's moving and identify and turnover what's actually illiquid. But remember, the power to invest is within your hands, and you need to make an informed decision as to what you need to buy. So if you're to use the tools available to you, then you would be able to make a right decision around it. Yes, there are liquid counters around that, and statistics and information on the platform and outside the platform would help you make a decision around it. On the next steps, I think Alia summarized very well. We're in a very good place where we are receiving feedback from customers. As I mentioned, when building products, we offer value to our customers. So all this feedback we're receiving from yourselves using Ziidi Trader will help us identify what we need to add next based on the value that we are offering you.
Oh, there's someone here who might have missed the conversation. How do they deposit money into their Ziidi Trader account? That's something you can handle very quickly. So get out. How does money move from my M-Pesa into the Ziidi Trader?
I can just go through the whole process. So again, remember, you begin by having your M-Pesa app. So you need to go onto your Play Store, iOS, and download the M-Pesa app. So we have two, Safaricom and M-Pesa. Make sure you download the M-Pesa app. Once you get onto the M-Pesa app, go to Financial Services. Under Financial Services, you will find Ziidi Trader. You go through the opt-in process of your source of fund and accepting your terms and conditions and the risk that comes with trading stocks. Thereafter, you'd go to trades. So we offer a unique way where the landing page has your portfolio value, and the portfolio value shows what you have as a portfolio. How do you get to portfolio? You get to portfolio by holding stocks. So holding stocks means buying. How do you buy? You go under trades, you identify, and we'll use Safaricom as an example. Go to Safaricom, click on it. You go to the bottom, you have two buttons. You have you buy and you sell. Click the blue, the buy. Once you click the blue button, you will input the quantity and the stock price. You could put in the stock price by clicking best price or identify, or put in your own amount. Remember, the 10% above or below will apply. You could also go to the order book and go through the available orders in the market, helping you reduce the chances of having your order rejected or expired at the end of the market. Once you put in the price, hopefully you put in the right price, you proceed to buy. At now the point now you're clicking buy, you will first verify the amount of shares that you put in, the price, and the total amount, including all your statutory deductions plus broker fee, all very clearly defined there. The next process is now to put in your M-Pesa PIN. At putting in your M-Pesa PIN, what we do is we check your M-Pesa wallet. So your M-Pesa wallet needs to have funds. Kindly note, we currently do not use your Fuliza funds, so you actually have to have the funds, some of the processes, so you can let us know if you'd like to invest via Fuliza. So you will have to have the funds in your M-Pesa wallet. So mind you, you do not pre-fund your wallet and you do not pre-fund Trader wallet. You only need to have funds in your M-Pesa wallet. At no transaction cost, you will now proceed to make that purchase of your stocks. You confirm with your receipt, so you'll have a receipt of that trade, and you buy. If your order matched, you immediately moved from pending state to a portfolio allocated shares. So that now goes into your portfolio. Within the four buttons at the bottom, you will see your portfolio, where you'll see all the stocks that you hold and how they're performing. Are you in the red? Are you in the green? If you're in the green, you can check your performance and view performance to see how well you're performing. And if you're a trader, you trade. If you're a long-term investor, you hold. I hope that it gives some clarity.
And Leah, I'll come to you because you dealt with high net worth individuals in terms of thinking about investing and all. What would be your general advice like to new traders in the market? What should they look out for? They have the money now in the M-Pesa. What should they do? Where do they invest in? And how do they consider the various options? There's 65 or so stocks at the NSE. There's too many options sometimes. So what would be your general advice from your gleanings and dealings with investors in the past?
I think the first thing I'm going to caveat is that I'm not going to give advice. And that's something that Ziidi Trader also stays away from doing. So we're a platform. We give you access to information, but of course, the responsibility also lies with the investor to do as much research as possible. We will give you the tools, but we will never advocate for you which share or counter to buy or to sell. So I just wanted to be clear on that. But for someone who's looking to invest for the first time, the critical thing to remember with stocks is that you have to be patient. Because stock prices can be volatile, it's important for you to have a longer term view and not to panic when you see that you bought Safaricom at 30 today and tomorrow it's at 29.8 or 29.5 and you start panicking and saying, oh, I've lost money. When you're going into anything, you have to look at the fundamentals of what drove you to buy that stock? What is it about that business or that counter that has made you interested in it? Is it something that is available in public domain that is happening with the company? Is it the dividends that they typically announce and that's what's driving you for it? So I think there's a lot of effort that needs to be put in by the investor, knowing which shares to buy. It seems like a lot of work, but what we've tried to do on Ziidi Trader, and of course things that will improve along the way, is we give you a lot of that information on the app. So when you go to the APSA app, you'll be able to read a little bit about APSA. If there's anything about APSA in the news, you'll be able to see that, so that when you're making those decisions, you make it from an informed perspective. What we've tried to do is not make you have to go elsewhere to look for information. Everything should be easily available to you on the app. So just to summarize it, do some background information on the 55 counters that are there. Based on what it is that you're looking for, then you should be able to identify the right stock. Start small. If it's your first time, you have the ability to buy one share now. So start with maybe 10, 20 shares. Get yourself comfortable with the platform, with the idea of trading, monitoring the market. On the app, you'll be able to see your total portfolio, whether it's up, whether it's down, which stocks are up, which stocks are down, so that you can make an informed decision if you choose to sell, what is actually happening in that space. As we go along, that there's a lot of other functionalities that we want to bring in, like a chatbot functionality, where for those who are new, you'd be able to come in and ask questions. And the questions could be as basic as what is a share, what is the NSC, what is a dividend, to a little bit more complex questions of what should I look for when I'm buying a stock or selling a stock. A lot of that information will be from publicly available material. So it's not advice given by Safaricom. It's just we're giving you access to all that information in one place. So I think in a roundabout way, I'm saying you do your background on the entities, but if it's new for you, start small and gain confidence as you start to go bigger.
Back to GitHub, there are some people in Diaspora also interested in using, and sometimes they've run into that era of they cannot set it up. Is there a distinction between if you set up your M-Pesa with a passport or an ID card? Is there an issue there in terms of that distinction? And then what can they do, people in Diaspora, to participate in this Ziidi Trader?
First of all, as long as you have your M-Pesa and you're already active on your M-Pesa app, you do not need any further activation to do it. But within opt-in, and the caveat for this is we are currently only allowing national ID users to register on Ziidi Trader. Future iterations, we shall look deeper into other forms of identification. But for now, we are only allowing those users on M-Pesa or Safaricom users that registered using their national IDs. But going back, as long as you have your M-Pesa app active and you registered via your ID, wherever you are in the world, you have the ability to do that. But keep in mind, time difference. So the local times still apply, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I know some of you might have to wake up earlier or sleep later to be able to participate within those periods.
I think, Eric, you need to reiterate that bit about CDSC account. A couple of questions on the timeline on it, how the Omnibus account works. In a quick, maybe 30 seconds, you can tell people how that bit about the CDSC account works, that they do not need a CDS account and there is an Omnibus account.
I think the Omnibus account, why we are calling it an Omnibus account or a nominee account, it's because it's an actual CDS account, but in this case, it's giving access to everybody to access it. As compared to if Mokaya, you had your own CDS account, yes, any transactions or any buying and selling of shares will happen because you are the one who has instructed. In this case, the Omnibus account is the same CDS account, but now it's carrying the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. It's like a jar of water. So everybody comes in and puts in his number of shares that he's bought, in this case, maybe a cup full of water and so forth. And at the end of the day, the big jar is full. So we are calling that big jar the Omnibus account. But in a nutshell, it's a CDS account. And the beauty about this one, it has been recognized that it's an Omnibus, which is a CDS account, but it's carrying many people. So long as you're in there, so long as you came with your cup and you poured your water into the jar, in this case shares, you are recognized as an individual. Because at the end of the day, with Safaricom, they can be able to query and show that Mukaya came with his 10 shares and they are carried in this Omnibus account. I think that's the simplest form of explaining the Omnibus account. And the beauty about it is it's recognized that you are a shareholder. You're not a unit holder. As compared to other, assuming if it was so like an MMF, they buy shares, but where they keep the shares, it's still there's an Omnibus account, CDS account, but at that particular time, you have forfeited your right of voting in an AGM. But in this unique one for Ziidi, we have been recognized as anybody who comes in there, still retains the same as somebody who has his own CDS account. So in a nutshell, you could have your own CDS account with a certain broker, but if you come into Ziidi, you still retain the same right within the Ziidi environment.
So your shares are not lost. They're there within the Omnibus structure, and it's a legal framework within which you can operate. That's the key point you take. Guitar and Ania, if people need some bit of more information, they're having issues to deal with Ziidi Trader, setting up all that, where should they look for information to? Is there a dedicated line or just a general line? And then secondly, also, I think that people in diaspora especially are really worried a little bit about how they can access this. So I think there is a requirement. I think when you're setting up the M-Pesa app, you need to be under mobile data and all. And I think that can be a pain point for a lot of people in diaspora. So maybe it's something to note for the future. But Gitara and Nadia, tell us, where can we get more information about this? And also in the process, tell us a bit more about how people can reach out to you, guys, specifically.
I'm happy to go first. Yeah, so if anyone does have any challenges with accessing Ziidi, any of our Ziidi products, they can call the care center, so 100 or 200. And the care center team have been equipped to help answer any questions. There's also the customer care email address. If it's something that you can't get through to the care center, you can drop them an email and they'll be able to respond with that. I know for diaspora, there have been challenges because you do need to access it on mobile data. I think one of the solutions we've had for that is there's a Daima bundle that you can access, and that should also help you. But if there are any challenges, feel free to drop an email to our customer care. If they're not able to resolve it, they will write to Gitao and myself, and we'll be able to help assist with any issues that customers are facing.
Gitao, over to you. And I want to add your question about trading limits, the M-Pesa limits, if they apply to these particular purchases.
I think Ali has covered the question. Maybe I can just go straight into the limits. So for limits, the limits do apply. They apply across all M-Pesa products. But the daily limits are 500,000 a day, split into two transactions, 250,000, 250,000. The limits do apply to Ziidi Trader. But remember, these are daily. There's nothing stopping you from investing 500,000 a day on a particular stock that you're looking at. And maybe the question would be about price movement for that. And again, like I mentioned, this is a period where we get a lot of your feedback. So if you feel that these are restricted for you, please let us know. But that means that you still have 500,000 a day to trade.
And then, Eric, markets do go up and down. So I think it's responsible of us to discuss that a little bit. I think most who come to markets expect them to go up and up. Eric, could you iterate a bit about markets, that they can be downturn sometimes, and so that people are aware of that?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. Taking note that trading is different from investing in the money market fund or special funds, because there somebody does the actual trading for you. But in this case, we have empowered you to be the one trading. So just take note that there are risks that come with that. And that's why my colleague Alia was reiterating and saying, start slow, start small, but over time you get to learn, you get to know the ropes of reading the market, and also using the order book to be able to assess where the market is going. Either the market is going up or down. Now, in this case, what I'm telling people is that because we have given you access does not mean that it will become an overnight success, that you'll become an overnight millionaire. Access without education is speculation. Access with education is empowerment. So we're here trying to push that we need to empower you. And how do we empower you with that? This is where we come in with explanations, risk disclaimers. We are now telling you that at any one time you have to read and research about the particular company that you're buying, so that you do not buy a company that maybe the following day is going to be delisted or is shutting down or it's even making losses. This is where now your ADM comes in, that you're eagerly going to be waiting for company announcement. And you see maybe like the banks are announcing, I think we're coming into that season. So suddenly people are now going to become even more curious to start hearing the investor briefings. I know usually when Safaricom announce, it's a big event. And suddenly even other banks or even other companies that are listed in the stock exchange will start using this forum to be able to advertise their success. And with that, it will be able to translate to the retail person who had ignored all those things over the years, suddenly now is keen to hear how this company is doing, how the profits are coming up, how the dividends is coming. I think for many years, the people who are very interested in that space were the research analysts who worked in fund management, or the foreigners, or the big corporate. And because the retail was left out, I think now you, the retail people, you now need to come back to the actual reading the business and news and hearing what is out there. So that forms part of the education that we need you to use so that you can make an informed transaction. We don't want you to buy a stock that maybe was at 10 shillings and because they have announced a profit warning, the following day it's at 5 shillings. We want you to be out there reading and again, building a reading culture. I know we've been accused many times that Kenyans, they don't have the culture of reading. I think this is where now we need to change that. And because we have empowered you to be able to do those transactions yourself, we want you to be able to make informed decisions so that you can be able to make the right investments.
Very important. It's something I'd like to reiterate, like indeed, as you come to markets and get all this new technology to be able to invest in markets, information is such an important and crucial component. Gitao, there's another question that has come for you specifically. As if there is a limit of 500K and someone is selling maybe something around 800,000 in terms of shares, and they then move back that to M-Pesa, or how does that work in terms of the limit if they have a bigger portfolio than 500K?
It's a great question. So the M-Pesa limit will still apply, but we will do it in batches. So you have your first one, the first amount done on the first day, and the second on the next day.
We're coming to the closing of this really lovely conversation. There's a lot of questions here about investor education. That's a very important part that we need to maybe to see how we can play a role in terms of informing people about what's happening in markets. A couple of people asking for webinars, places to access more information about what's happening in the markets. That's a key role that we try to play here at Mongo Capital, but generally also I think all of us in the ecosystem will do well to inform our new investors in the markets as much as possible about what happens in markets so that they can understand that a bit better. So that's a key takeaway. But as we close, maybe Eric, you can start us off some key things that you want investors to remember as they use Ziidi Trader. And then I'll come to Gitao and Alia. So Eric, what are the key things you want investors to remember as we close, and where can they find more about Kestrel Capital?
In my closing remarks, I'll try and make them as short. So for starters, Kestrel Capital is situated in the Westlands area, right next to the stock exchange. It was not a coincidence. It was planned. We wanted to be next to the people who we are going to serve. And it was only fair that if you are going to be selling a product in the stock market, you needed to be next to the person who is providing for you that product. And so we are at Pramuk Towers, 10th floor, right opposite the stock exchange and next to Standard Chartered. And with that, also, maybe what I can say is for many decades, investors have been distant, especially the retail investors. They have always felt this process has been complex, intimidating, and it was exclusive, which I believe it was. But I think with this single share rule, which Safaricom, in conjunction with NSE and Kestrel and CMA, they were able to bring down from 100 shares to 1 share. And the idea behind that was to get that retail person who always felt intimidated that you had to have a lot of money to come into the market. So with that, I think M-Pesa with Ziidi has moved investing from boardrooms to your pocket. And when I mean your pocket is because your phone is in your pocket. So at any one time when you carry that phone, don't just think about it that it's used to chat or used to call somebody or used to transfer money. But now you can even transfer shares. You can actually buy and sell shares and make a profit. Not forgetting that there's also an MMF platform that Safaricom has provided. So it's been a journey. It's not just about trading shares. It's about economic participation. It's about allowing every Kenyan to own a piece of the country. That Kenya right now is in a growth part. So we don't want you to miss on that. We want you to enjoy the companies that you felt like if you ever wanted to buy a piece of that company, you had to go through tons and tons of paperwork. That is now behind us. We need to modernize the trading. We need to modernize Kenyans coming into the stock market. And I think this is a big step towards achieving that. And I commend everybody who has joined in and everybody who's going to listen to this podcast in the future, that we started with one step, but I think there are a lot of things that behind the scenes we are working on to make this journey not just a one-stop shop or a one-hit wonder, but a product that is going to change even our culture and even our children. Whenever you give them money, tell them invest some in this product and invest some in the shares, of course guided. So thank you for that, Mokaya. Thank you everybody for listening and taking your time and just to hear out and even the lovely questions that we've been seeing coming in. And I hope we were able to answer all of them. And if we were not able to answer, again, you can reach out to us, Kestrel Capital. We have an amazing website. We have an amazing social media platform. Please reach out and we'll answer your queries.
Gitao and then Aliyah, closing thoughts and where people can find more information.
I'd like to encourage everyone to look at and think about their wealth accumulation and what the future looks like in terms of money. Never a wrong time to start. Every time is a good time to think about it. Start within your means, but always remember to stretch yourself and stay informed. Always be informed. If you're looking at Ziidi Trader in terms of stock trading, always be informed. Make sure you have all the information necessary before you begin, and no amount is too small to set up. You also need to stay consistent with your strategy. So make sure that if it's an every month thing, stay consistent in terms of it. Whatever process or strategy or efforts you're putting towards your future for wealth accumulation, stick to it and be consistent. To reach Safaricom, please go to call 100 200, also on our socials, emails. We are available to meet and address your needs that you may have. And lastly is to thank everyone for connecting with us on this and on our socials, for taking your time to download the solution and trade. We have all made history by changing the number of orders and investment within the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I'd also like to thank Mongo Capital for bringing everyone and for the opportunity. Thank you.
Leah, you have the opportunity to close for us.
Thank you, Makaya, and everyone for joining the call. I think mine is just to say, as Safaricom, our purpose is to transform lives. And one of the ways that we want to do it is to ensure that our customers are financially literate and financially healthy. And that's why we embarked on Ziidi MMF and now Ziidi Trader. And there's going to be a lot more to come soon. But we can't do it without the insights that our customers give us. So mine is to really encourage you to use our products. Give us the feedback on what more you would like to see from Safaricom that you feel will really be transformative and really help the masses to start their journey of wealth accumulation. I think for me, the biggest thing, and I think it's like what Gitao said, wealth is not for the wealthy. Everybody can start somewhere. So just take that first step in your journey of wealth creation. And Safaricom is there to walk with you. So looking forward to getting your feedback, and there's lots more to come with Ziidi from M-Pesa. Thank you so much.
And as you say, it's version 1. So imagine where the sky in terms of the limits will be at. So thank you, Aliyah, Eric, Gitao, for joining us today in terms of helping us understand Ziidi Trader. We're hoping to have more conversations like this so that you're able to empower you, so you're able to invest in markets as much as possible. Our target is to ensure that as much as possible, we get information out there on what's happening in markets. And to ensure that you have the best tools to be able to invest in markets as quickly and as best as possible. So Ziidi Trader is performing that role in markets, and we are very grateful that you're able to have that conversation around it. Thank you once again, Aliyah, Eric, Gitao, the team at Safaricom that's behind the scenes to help us make this work, and Kestrel Capital too, and the entire team at Ziidi Trader, and also the team at Mongo Capital is also behind the scenes to make sure that this works.